That'll work. Okay, let's see. Hey, Bob.
Morning.
How you feeling?
Oh, all right.
I was gonna say the weather's better. Does that help?
Does? Yeah,
Yeah.
it does.
I mean, you're basically a weatherman, so you feel the storms coming. You can see them coming from above the clouds. Somebody asked me. Good morning, friend.
Hi, Bob.
Oh. Yeah. Yes. So is he the more talkative one socially?
That's actually a new one.
As every couple has
I never
their
made
social life.
like
I'm
the-
definitely the one of us. So.
like them old style.
My grandma used to have one of the great big
Although
things.
Oh, yeah.
most people don't realize this, but I can't.
Had the record player in it, and it even had I think it even had a spot for
Usually about
Asian
Friday,
Yeah,
at
my
2 or
sister had
3,
one like
I
that.
go to the Chinese restaurant by
My son
myself.
got me one of those, has a turntable at the top and plays.
I need that
CDs.
5% of just total no social activity. And nobody's a Chinese
Then he got me
too.
some Beatles.
The
The
food
food
is
had a
not
tape player on the side too.
When's
So that's the reason you're there?
I'm not there for the food.
Yeah, pretty neat.
That would be probably the most faithful for me.
Yep. I bet.
Talk to me.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And I admire you for being in church every week. That takes, because I'm sure you're like, oh, it's like that.
You'll notice I hide. Lean on my husband.
Yes. I mean, I'm the preacher and I want to do that sometimes. So it's not that I don't want to come to church. I want to sleep in and go to church. Like, why can't I do both? You know, I have a friend out in California who doesn't go to church until 5 p.m. on Sunday nights, and I'm a little jealous of that.
Yeah.
So I said, well, I'll do it for a
But then I could do everything else. So.
demonstrator meeting, you know. And
I use it for Wednesday nights,
I
right?
have to come, I have to do
Just start
something
a Revelation
exceptional
study on
for you, because you
art
make them
and
and you know what, you
inspired
know.
Revelation.
To be had.
That's something I haven't seen before in Revelation study, was mixing in art and music with Bible study.
I
So,
think we put them all up here. We put it all up
and what's funny, it's not artistic or musical. So.
Yeah, we just go out and steal one. She was listening to it, and I had already said she did mention.
You
This
can-
voice don't do so.
You can sing and you can play. I've seen you do both. I believe in the Bob. How you doing, Debbie?
I
Anybody
wouldn't
with you?
play
Dad's
no
with
more,
you?
though. It wouldn't sound.
Okay. Ben, the great question of the hour is, are you sitting there or
Yeah.
standing there?
Right.
At one time, Chris had
Sitting.
the bass and
Ah. Oh, over there. Never mind. Sorry. I got a rope. How you doing? I was gonna say you look a little.
I'm a little bit green like
I kind of understand because we had an all-day wedding yesterday. So
Is that why all the chairs and tables are set up?
yeah, I love you.
I wouldn't even.
It took us. We were here at 9 o'clock last night. So for the men, the women started like 7.
Would not sound good at
So
all.
yeah.
I've never been vertically inside with an
Well, that
instrument.
doesn't happen now.
Amen. Caroline's
Be
with the courthouse.
surprised
Like,
what
we
they-
didn't.
Well, that's where we have to-
Yeah, so it was, yeah, we didn't care.
Practice.
Yeah.
And it is.
I think that sometimes is for the best.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
I didn't see, nobody
That
had
buddy
nothing
and I
little
was
to
talking
spend
about
it on.
No.
He's actually the one
No.
taught me how to play.
Well, and I always tell a bride who's like broke, like, look, we can put on a simple, nice church wedding if you want. It doesn't even necessarily cost you anything. It's not gonna be fancy, but at least you can be married in church if you wanna be. Karen and I went to the Justice of the Peace too, so.
The one and only time that I actually.
In fact, we got married on Friday, moved on Saturday and Sunday, and the kids started school on Monday. So our honeymoon was moving.
Yeah.
It's like, we already had kids though. Did you see him in a suit? Oh my goodness.
And I blew my speaker that day.
Yeah, that was awesome. Looks like $1 million. Did you wear it to church today?
No.
You gonna wear it to church?
No, she, had to go to,
Okay, it looks like I need to brush.
she was meeting with.
Okay, alright, that's fair. You let me know what you want.
She
Okay.
has a sheet.
Well, you know, you have to get the suit first.
On Sunday, and so they met and they're.
So I told him, man,
Well,
girls.
that's it, so now, the next step.
Now he's just gotta get in public with it. Yeah, that's the key there.
Yeah,
Yes,
he lives.
December 6th. Friday, December 6th, when it handles the sign.
That's in Kansas City.
Yes,
That's
yes, please. We're inviting anybody.
I'm tired of not seeing him, you know?
Have you ever heard of the Hallelujah Chorus?
So just do me a favor, be careful around all them crazies down there in Columbia.
It's fine, which is nice, we don't have to like rush.
Well, this is, if we take the church bus, everybody's gonna have
Yeah,
to stay.
For the people who want to.
That's what they're meeting, you know,
I'm sure
what
those
TGI
who-
Fridays is across the highway from Cracker Barrel.
So, yeah, everybody kind of, we'll figure it out.
So she
I don't
doesn't
know
have
how
to be
people
too
want to
far
do
in.
Because when it comes to adults, it's not like a youth trip where you plan everything for everybody. Adults want to plan their own thing, so we'll just kind of see how it goes. But with plenty of warning, I think we'll get there.
I still have that music though.
Oh, and it's behind you on record.
Oh, that's what that is?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, Dennis. And that one was done by a Russian orchestra in the 90s when they were like shambles. So it's a really interesting, unique sound because they didn't have the resources that a normal symphony would. So that's one of my favorite recordings. I've listened to it 1,000 times. All right, well. Somebody stole one of our tables.
Good morning.
Hey, Karen. We're missing a table, so you'll have to move over a little bit.
That's fine. Hi, everybody.
Good morning.
Tony and Columbia did it.
Okay. Okay, sounds good.
Oh, you're batching it then.
Batching
Yeah.
Bob is.
Oh.
You're welcome.
Not necessarily. Did you get some chicken to take home?
I did not.
There's still plenty.
We have an entire pan.
Yeah, I don't need 5 pounds of chicken or however much that is. It's over there.
Imagine we'll feed you.
We're gonna try to get all that split up today, tonight. We're gonna take back Texas this afternoon.
And we still got 10 pounds of my freezer.
You got 10 pounds.
Only in America do we fight to give away food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Morning.
Okay. That's right, Candy and Mickey. That's what I haven't distributed things to yet. Table go.
We just took it home with.
I figured. I was like,
All the candy roaming are sitting up hard.
that's right. That's right. Okay. I was like, that is weird. Okay, we're gonna go with it.
So that chicken would be really good if you just mix it like with a bunch of beans and rice.
Yeah, that's my plan. Make tacos out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Onion good.
Good leftover thought for it.
Probably beans, rice, corn, onions, peppers.
I was worried as I was doing it yesterday, and then I called Zach and I was like, I don't think we're gonna have enough chicken. So we went and bought 4 more bags, and then once I got the last part of it done, I just took it and I put it all together and get it all mixed in together so it would be consistent, you know, for as far as with what it was and everything. And then I realized I've got a 5-gallon bucket full of chicken. I don't think we should eat it anymore. Yeah,
40 pounds of chicken.
37.
37, okay.
Yeah, uncooked. Yeah.
Morning.
Put it in the freezer.
Wait, Cat Fox getting talking with us. What? The Cat, West, Cat Fox getting kind of talking now.
Hey, different. Okay, well, let's see, I'll just put some lessons over here. Got a plan. Then just make sure they get a paper. All right, well, good morning, friends. Beautiful day outside. It is very nice. Wish I had time to mow today. Just ain't gonna happen. Maybe tomorrow, that's the goal. All right, we're in Romans 7. If you want to turn there. Romans 7.
Josh,
Yes.
I had a heart test.
Oh, yeah. How'd that go?
It went good, but I don't know the results.
Oh, okay.
So, but I was scared to death. I didn't know what to expect. But they were real nice and it was not a,
It wasn't a big deal?
no.
Okay, all right. Vicki, there's the paper behind you. Yep. Okay, very good. Thank you. Well, we'll pray for your results, Karen.
I do too.
Do you know when you're getting them?
I thought I'd get it, the end of the week.
Okay.
I
Well-
thought I was gonna get them Thursday or Friday, but they never called me.
I want you to know I've known your heart for a long time, and I bet it's great. All right. Very
Oh, I
good.
like your hair.
Thank you.
Vicki had a new horse born yesterday.
Oh, it's been a busy week.
Yes, it has.
It's awesome.
All right. Well, grateful for that. So I guess mom and
Absolutely.
baby are doing fine.
Perfect.
Great.
Yep.
Great.
Yeah.
Good deal. And couldn't wake up to a nicer morning.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it really is. Grateful. John, I want you to know that I did not pray for all that rain. I thought of you immediately. Yeah, I bet. I
Yeah,
bet.
we've had enough.
July, we're gonna wish it was here.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, here we go. All right, friends, we're in Romans 7. We are going to be looking at verses 8 through 12 today. I think we're going to have some good discussion. Would somebody read Romans chapter 7, verses 8 through 12, nice and loud for us?
But sin,
Coveting.
coming every kind, for apart from the law, sin is death. I was once alive apart from the law, but when the commandment came, sin became alive and I died. This commandment, which was to result in life, proved to result in death for me. For sin, taking an opportunity through the commandment, deceived me and though kill me through it. Then the law is holy, and the commandment is holy and righteous and good.
All right. Thank you, Jim. Now, how I entitled this little section is Satan and Sin Are Clever. I think sometimes we get the impression, especially if we're young in the faith, that sin is just 1, 2, 3. We avoid 1, 2, 3, and we're good. As if there's no deception or guile to sin. But by definition, Satan and sin are going to be guile. They're going to be deceptive. They're going to do all they can to throw us off and to make us think we're doing right. I think that's the only way you can explain how there are so many churches in the world today that feel good about what they're doing, but they are not doing good. I hope you heard what I said when I said that. Churches can feel good about what they're doing, but they're not doing any good. And people can be the same way. They can feel good about what they're doing, but not be doing any good. And that's how Satan and sin are clever, and therefore we should not underestimate them. The individual Christian, the individual person separated from the church has no guarantee of protection. I don't think people realize that. There's a lot of people in the world today that claim to be believers, who claim to believe in God or Christ even, but then they're like, yeah, but you don't have to be a part of organized religion. You don't have to be part of church. And the really sad thing about that is that, and I've had people tell me, well, my life's going fine. Why do I need to worry about it? Well, the reason why your life's going fine and you don't feel like you need to worry about it is because Satan already has you where you are, so he's not going to bother you. Why would he do that? He's already got you exactly where you are. You're not serving the kingdom. You're not doing anything to advance God's causes. You're just a neutral player. You ever hear the term NPC, non-player character? It's a term of just people who just are neutral. They don't do anything. Well, Satan loves the people who don't do anything. That's one of his favorite kinds of people, because they're just easy picking, and they think they're safe because they feel good about where they're at in life. One thing I try to explain to new Christians, especially as I age, is that I'm not inviting you to something easy. I'm inviting you to something good. And that's very different. There are a lot of things in life that are difficult by nature, but are blessed. They're a good thing. And being a believer in Christ and participating in his church, I don't like to use the word attending his church. I like to use the term participating in his church. That's not going to invite ease into your life. It's going to invite goodness into your life. Because it turns out that almost anything worth doing is hard. And that's what this is. So if you're looking for ease, we're probably not the church for you. In fact, I feel like in my 13 years here, I've had a handful of people leave because I expected things of them. Like I really do. I think they were looking for a church that would just make them feel good. They'd show up on Sunday morning, give their $5, $10, $20, $30, $40, whatever it is. They want to hear a feel-good sermon and leave and feel good about their life. They don't want any responsibility. And that's not what Christ is inviting us to. Now, he says his yoke is easy and his burden is light, but that's a lot different than my yoke is nothing and my burden is nothing. Okay? And I think I'm preaching to the choir here, but it's just a good reminder that Satan and sin are clever. Satan's not going to bother people who aren't doing anything for the kingdom. He's only going to bother those of us who are really trying to advance his kingdom. So, to some degree, you know you're doing right if Satan just keeps picking on you. That's good to know. You know? Thoughts, comments, questions? I kind of figured we'd have some comments on that.
And that is that he was talking about the church, and he said, it's not that you know these things already, but that until the day that I die.
Mm-hmm.
Responsibility
Yes.
of a teacher or a minister to keep reminding constantly, but occasionally reminders are great for all of us.
Well, and I kind of like where you're going with this, Bob. I had a preacher tell me this, and he told me this like 20, 25 years ago. And at the time, it really hit me wrong. Like, I was like, oh, it's a terrible way to put it. But I've learned with age that there's a lot of truth to it. He said, you're going to find out, Josh, as an adult, that your life is going to be, you're going to choose one of two paths. You're going to choose difficulty or meaninglessness. That's your two choices. Because good things are hard and easy things don't matter. So you're going to choose between difficulty or meaninglessness. Pick your poison. As a 20-year-old, I did not want to hear that. Because when you're a kid, you think, when I grow up, I get to do whatever I want, whenever I want. My parents can't tell me when to go to bed. I can buy candy whenever I want. And then you realize when you're an adult, I don't want any of those things. But what I don't want is, a really, really hard life. But it turns out that a really, really good life is sometimes really, really hard. One thing I've learned too, if this is any comfort to parents in the room, is that Satan won't always target you directly. He'll target your kids. That's how he'll get to you. Your kids and your grandkids. And man, that's the roughest thing of them all. Because I'd rather Satan pick on me any day. I'd rather he strap me to a pole and beat me for a month than deal with a child who's dealing with temptation. I had no idea when So, talking about kids, when I tell a new believer that being a Christian is going to have some difficulty, it's going to have some challenges and trials that a non-Christian won't face, I don't necessarily tell them everything up front. Now, why would I not do that?
Scare them off.
Yeah, exactly. You got to ease into it. You do. Like, for example, some of us, the jobs or careers we're in now, had we known everything we did, would we have chose them 20, 30, 40 years ago? Because you don't know how hard something is until you do it yourself. And one thing I've learned about jobs is everybody's job is hard. Some jobs are harder than others, but I've never met anybody who had an easy job. All jobs have their difficulties. I thought that when I was at the library that was an easy job, and it was in terms of labor. Like, I had nothing to do, but it was extremely difficult in terms of boredom. I learned I'd rather be stressed than bored. That's what that job taught me. So then I got a job in fast food for 5 years. I'd rather be greasy, smelly, yelled at, screamed at, busy beyond reason, tired, feet hurt, than be bored. That was a lesson that I could not have learned if somebody just would have told me. I had to live it. And that was kind of my way of learning that difficult things are meaningful things. Easy things are meaningless things. Other thoughts, questions, or comments on that?
Sounds like
Steve can't catch you. Getting in your barbs after a few decades, you like, hey Steve, and then you run away. You can't.
you start married life and it's everything is beautiful and it goes along.
No, it's funny you bring that up. I've told preacher boys this. Everybody has 1 to 3 sermons. Everybody. Like, everybody's always thought of what they'd like to get up and just tell 200 people. After you do that 2 or 3 times, you realize now it's work. Now you actually have to do the study and the structure and all. Because, in the beginning, it's simple. Like, I've had this sermon stored up in my brain for 30, 40 years. I'm ready. And then you do that, and then you realize, oh my. Now I got to do the work, and that's kind of like marriage. It's easy at first. Everything's automatic at first. Your feelings kind of take you there at first, and then you settle into real life, and it's like, oh, now it takes work. Yeah. Great. That's a great point, Linda. You really have a gift in comedy. I think that has been underdeveloped. I want the Linda Miller Comedy Hour. That's what I want. I want Steve in the balcony way in the back where he can't have a voice for an hour. Oh, that's great. He'll just get a longer stick, I guess.
He might be.
So cool to see him yesterday, though. Yeah, getting better by the day. Slow, but better. So, again, talking about kids and grandkids, like, I look back now, I've got 3 grown kids and Luke's still coming up, and it's so easy to focus on the things you missed, because I missed, you miss quite a bit, you just do. And to some degree, you tried to learn from your parents and do better, but then you make your own version of the same mistakes in a way, and then your kids don't understand that till they have kids of their own and they make their own errors. I'm kind of looking forward to that day. I bet some of you are like, that was a great day. I'm looking forward to that myself. Because they'll still like nitpick on stuff. I'm like, you just wait. You just wait.
I hope.
Okay.
say a picture is like 1,000 words, that's the saying, right? But a picture never lies. I've looked at pictures and I'm like, man, you're stupid.
Talking about yourself,
Talking
yeah.
about myself.
Oh, yeah, me too. Yeah. I understand that. So let's have a little discussion here, because I'd like to learn from you all, because I'm still learning. What have you found to be useful in getting your kids ready for adulthood? Like what is either something you did or something you learned that helped your kids get ready for adulthood?
Make them raise hogs.
Raise hogs. You know, I've long thought, as much as I have zero personal interest in farming, it would have been good for my kids to raise animals.
They only had them a short season, but they had to do it.
That's a good
Making
thing.
them do it.
Yeah.
Developing strong vocabulary too.
Another person who's a great deadpan comic right there. Yeah. I need the Linda Miller, John Cook comedy hour. Yeah, that's what we do. I'll pay money for that, so you guys think about it.
I worked
Hogs. Okay. Yeah, raising animals. I wish I would have done more of that. Like, I don't know if it's possible now, but
I got
it's,
some chickens you can have.
yeah. Jonathan's thinking about your chickens. He loves chickens.
Yeah.
He says he misses talking to them.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means.
It's not too late for Luke.
Yeah,
Say some Luke on them.
I've thought about it. I
They
have.
do respond to you a little
Yes, they
bit,
do.
Yeah.
hoping they'll get food.
Don't tell Luke, but Karen and I have some things in store for him next school year. He's not perfect aware of yet. So
Levi can drag him into the cattle world.
yeah, that'd be good. You know, I was so glad you guys took him to see. What did you have him see again? A bull getting castrated? Is that what it was?
No, it wasn't us.
Oh,
Turn hours, maybe, wasn't it?
turn hours. Sorry. Yeah, the turn hours took Luke and Jesse. They're like, hey, we're gonna go do this thing with the cow, and then we'll get ice cream. And Luke was like, ice cream? Like he didn't even hear that. And then he came home and he's like, Dad, that was traumatizing. And I was like, that's just life, son.
I heard about it.
He's like, I can't believe you sent me to watch that. And I said, I wanted you to see that. You know, your meat doesn't come without pain. Yeah. Yeah. That was great.
Take care of animals or pets or pulling weeds.
Pulling weeds, yeah. Gardens, yeah.
I have one,
Okay.
which is a different subject, but, person who wants to fix things, and with your kids, you need to. That is the one thing I think will help you get ready for.
I think that may be one thing I do relatively well. And I don't know if it's because I'm wise or I'm lazy. But like, I had no problems at all with Lane Harley or Jonathan, even Jonathan being like, look, your mother will warn you, but I'll let you learn. So even Jonathan had to learn that with vehicles. Remember that golf cart, Jim, that first one? Oh my. He was 13 and saved up $800. He wanted to buy a 1985 modified golf cart. And I was like, son, there is no universe in which this works out well. But unlike your mother,
Hey,
I'll
but
let you
now
learn.
he's building motorbikes and
oh yeah, I mean, it started a good thing, but it started out hard. Yeah, that thing tried to kill him at least twice. So, yeah. And when the day he sold it, the motor mount broke.
Ooh.
And the guy was like, I'll give you $300 for it. He's like, fine, just take it. I'm done. I'm done. And I said, son, you don't realize this, but that was your first girlfriend. You had to learn the hard way, didn't you? Yeah. So, good thought, Candy. Anybody else? Tips for?
I think when they're in school,
That's something I made all my kids do, is you need to get a public-facing job. Yes. Because once you know that world, you will know humility. Yeah. And you know, it's funny, 95% of people are fine. It's that 5% of the public that ruins it for everybody.
they can be right.
Yes, they can.
And the second part,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've been in a restaurant before where I saw people I know who claimed to be Christians treat the waitress terrible because their food was cold or service was bad. And, you know, one thing you may not realize in the restaurant world is the waiter or waitress has little control over that.
They don't.
If the kitchen doesn't cook it at the right time and the right way, it's not like they tasted it before they gave it to you and knew what it was. I mean, people don't think, you know. And yeah, or not tipping at all. Like, I'm sorry, but we live in a culture where if you go to a restaurant and it's service, you're supposed to tip because that's how that person makes a living. If you don't want that, then don't go to those kinds of restaurants. Like, that really annoys me.
What do you expect? You know, when you go in and sit down and order or whatever, you expect nice service.
Yeah.
And food.
Right.
Good food. But if you've got, and sometimes they'll come, everything, is everything okay? And if something isn't, in a nice way, say, well.
Right.
You know, don't bark at it.
Yeah, just be nice.
But I've also learned not to not tell them because they want to know.
Well, if you don't tell them, how do they?
Okay, Wayne, you got a good story. I'm waiting for this.
Hey,
Okay.
waitress come by and says, is everything okay? And I said, am I supposed to eat coming out of that?
He's here for added protein or what?
She just grabbed it. Went and got
We got the Wayne, John, and Linda comedy hour. I want it, people. I do.
Oh, Gus said that yesterday. Gus did it, he had a hair of his.
That doesn't bother me.
That doesn't bother you.
No. I think it's because, I know this is going to sound weird, but in IT you have to crawl in people's crawl spaces and attics, and I can't tell you how many spiders and bugs and just all kinds of grossness I've had all over me most of my life doing that kind of work. That, like, if I get a hair in my sandwich, I'm like, that's the cleanest thing I might have touched today. You know, I just have no standards in that area.
I tend to agree with you, except I know generationally, like my folks and their folks, when all those diseases were running rampant, I mean, even in an OR.
Right.
And I think
I didn't know that. Now I'll look at it a little bit.
yeah, just don't eat it.
Thanks, Candy. Thanks for ruining that for me.
Unless it was,
Okay.
we'd say, oh, it was deep fried, it's okay now.
Okay, it's nobody's fault but mine, but we're a little off course now. Woo, super long wedding on Saturday will do to you. All right, very good. Well, let's see here. All right, let's look at point 1, letter C on your sheet there, if you're willing.
Yeah.
This is why offering every possible Bible educational opportunity, and I should have said to ourselves, to our children, to our grandchildren, and taking advantage of them is so important. Because no one can get everything they need spiritually for the week from a single sermon. Like, I tell new believers now, you know, I try to talk to them before they make the decision to be baptized, you know, try to have these conversations. And one of the things I tell them is, you really need to try to be in church at least twice a week. Whether that's sermon and Sunday school, or whether that's sermon and Wednesday nights, or, you know, we got a lot of options here at Calio. Shoot, come to youth group. Do at least 2 things a week. Because the sermon, kind of by design and by necessity, is going to be one of the lesser deep things that you will get into. Because I've got such a wide audience. I've got children in the audience. I've got new believers, old believers. So I'm always trying to ride that line between getting some meat in there and not making it too deep that people can't understand it. But groups like this, and Wednesday nights, especially Wednesday nights, that's when I get the deepest, is opportunities that I just can't do in a sermon. Wayne, you have a thought?
Well, I was just thinking about that. I mean, you can't preach one sermon can't touch all of it.
No?
I mean, you either gotta teach one that's teaching the older people more stuff,
Right.
or you gotta explain to them then about accepting Christ in life.
Right.
And usually,
It's hard.
some scriptures just don't.
Right. You know, it's kind of funny. Like teaching, I actually enjoy it more than preaching because I like the interaction. I like the dialogue. Also, I like to learn from you. Preaching by nature is a one-directional thing. And to half the audience, like, some of you, I feel like I'm teaching people who should be teaching me in that moment. And then the other half of the audience, I'm trying to reach them because they don't know anything. So, with teaching, we get a smaller group, we can talk, we can learn from each other. Wednesday nights, I got a solid hour that I can go through Revelation on a deep level. Tuesday daytimers, that's a fun. I don't even know how to explain daytimers. If you haven't been to daytimers, you haven't lived. It's a mix of deep Bible study and comedy. I don't know how else to put that. It's kind of like Sunday school on steroids. But yeah, so I always tell people you need to be in church at least twice a week, even youth group, because youth group, you're serving, you're participating, you're seeing things from a child's perspective, and that's useful. Like, I'm 42 and I'm so glad I'm still involved in youth ministry because I can still reach these teenagers even though I'm like the least cool person on earth, because I've learned to be around them and talk their language and relate to them. So I think that it's very important to take advantage of various Bible opportunities. And if you look at our youth program right now, we have like 8 things a week that youth can attend. So I'm very excited about that because I see these kids just growing and growing, and I'm hoping that it's going to kind of create a Sunday school revolution in a way, because these kids, when they get older, they're going to already be in the habit of being at church multiple times a week. Like, some of these kids tell me church is their favorite thing and it's their main thing. Well, that's the only possible if there's so many options for them. If the only option they had was Sunday school on Sunday morning, it wouldn't work. You got to meet people where they are. So I'm very grateful for all the volunteers and leadership that makes that possible, because it's a lot of work, but it's a very good thing.
I wish we could get a revival on Sunday night church.
Got the staff to do it. Go for it.
Elmer's a good option. I mean, we love to hear John favorite on Sunday nights.
That's when he preaches.
Yeah, and that's another option. Yeah, you could do a church bus trip there every week. Elmer needs it. So, yeah, but I'm not against it here either. It's just got to take the availability to do it, which doesn't exist for our current situation. So, Sundays as they are already full. Yeah, full of good things, but you're not wrong, Linda. So anybody here wants to preach and lead a service on Sunday nights, come talk to me. I'll help you out. Good. All right. Well, want to touch on some other things from verses 8 through 11. The idea, kind of coming back around at the beginning real quick, that Satan and sin are clever, that they're full of guile and deceit, that it's very possible for us to be involved in sin, and because we feel good about it, we think it's right. We're using the wrong measure. I feel like I have this conversation with people on an individual level pretty often, because I'll go talk to them about something, and they don't even think it's wrong. And the reason why they don't think it's wrong is because, well, nothing's going wrong. That's it. That's their only measure, really. They know what the Bible says, but that's not important. What's important is that when I do it, nothing bad happens. Well, that's because the consequences for some sins are delayed into eternity. Like, that's a problem. You're going to feel it then. Like, so that's not a proper measure. I tell you, the number of people right now who are deceived by churches who behave this way, who make people feel good, make people feel secure in a false gospel, is just through the roof. Like, I halfway believe that, I really almost fully believe that apostate churches are more dangerous to the world than the unreligious will ever be. Because false security is a very dangerous thing. And so I really get twisted over that one. That really drives me nuts. All right. Well, verse 12 here. Jim read this earlier. The law is holy, and the commandment is holy and righteous and good. We cannot blame the lawgiver for sin. I feel like we live in a culture right now where the last thing anybody will say under any circumstances is, I'm sorry, my fault. Everything is somebody else's fault. Everything is somebody else's responsibility. And we're doing this not just on an individual level, we're doing this on how we govern our world. That, you know, it's never the individual's fault. It's always society's fault or trauma from their past or, you know, and I'm not saying those things don't contribute, but this whole, like if you look at verses 8 through 12, Paul is dismantling that argument. Look, just because sin takes opportunity through certain circumstances does not relieve you from responsibility. Like that's key. That's really important to understand. I feel like that's lost sometimes in translation. I have to tell, shoot, my whole time raising my kids, you know, they would say, well, this person bullied me or this person said this. I'm like, look, I'm acknowledging that's true and that's terrible, but how you react is still up to you. It has to be, because there is no other solution. I'm not that other kid's parent. You know what I mean? Like, you still have to control the way you react, and that is so crucial. And that's really what Paul's argument is. We can't blame God because he gave us free choice, and free choice has the option to do wrong and to suffer. Like, that's not God's fault. It's our responsibility. Just like we cannot blame any law because we break it. All the same, when God tests us, any failure is our choice to do so, not God's fault for giving the test. Like, I remember, I still do this, you know, I'll set up a situation for my child and see how they respond. And to some degree, it's from my knowledge to see how they're growing up, but it's also for their betterment. Can you handle this? I don't know yet. Let's see if you can. Sometimes I consciously tell them I'm testing them. Sometimes I don't. Because that's life, right? That's real life. You know, God doesn't come out of the sky and be like, this is a test. Because if he did that, what would we do? Well, we might fail, but we also might try to behave ourselves for once. You know what I mean? You know, a test sometimes by design has to be blind. And God does that. He does that for our benefit. And then one thing I've realized with age is that sometimes failure is the only way I learn. Like, I won't listen to wisdom sometimes. I won't learn from other people. I won't learn from history. The only way I'm going to learn is if God puts me through something he knows I will fail at. He knows that's the only way I'll wake up sometimes. I had 2 children like that, 2 out of my 4 kids. The only way they learn is through failure and pain. You could try to beat wisdom into them. You could try to bribe wisdom into them. It didn't matter. They were only going to learn the hard way. God knows that about us too. And so sometimes the test is set up and he knows it's going to fail. Because the point is he needs us to grow. And sometimes that's the only way we'll grow. I think it's a hard truth, but he's a perfect father and he knows us better than anyone.
And after you fail, everything you heard before gets said.
Yeah, yeah, it does.
Your kids, yeah.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
So you don't not tell them,
Right.
advise them, but after they fail,
Right.
the light goes on.
Before you came in, Kara, I told the story of Jonathan buying that golf cart. And I've told all our kids, our entire growing up, I told them, your mother will warn you, but I will let you learn. And that's kind of been our parenting style this whole time. And 2 out of our 4 kids, the only way they learn is failure and pain. So.
Well, experience is always the best teacher. It may not be pleasant.
You know, C.S. Lewis said experience is a brutal but necessary teacher. Boy, is that the truth.
Cold hard truth.
Oh man, that's rough. So some Bible examples here. Adam and Eve had to learn the hard way, didn't they?
Just think what life would have been like if we hadn't taken that.
Now I want you to expound on this. Hey, Linda, you had your comedic moment. I'm going to have mine. I know that it was not a red delicious apple because nobody can be tempted by a red delicious apple. Those things, those are terrible.
They used to be wonderful.
Well, they're not anymore.
Well, I agree.
Some scientists had to experiment.
He wanted, and what I heard was they wanted him to ship well, and boy, they ship well now. Yeah, they don't bruise, but who wants to eat them?
Awful.
So what color would you say would be the apple in the Garden of Eden?
Yeah, well, we're not told it's an apple necessarily. I think everybody knows that.
Fruit.
It's fruit.
Fruit of some kind, yeah. Yeah. I won't tell him, my wife. I love my wife. So after 16 years of marriage. Okay, it's your fault I'm going to tell the story. Preacher Boy contest. Kara buys apples, and she buys like 9 pounds of Red Delicious apples. And I'm like, why would you buy Red Delicious apples? Nobody likes them. And of course,
I was
like,
being budget friendly.
yeah, they're pennies because they're trash. Anyway, so, but 7 kids like ended up eating apples. So she was partially vindicated.
Of the 3 bags, a bag and a half were gone, thank you.
Yeah, bag and a half. The other bag and a half needs to go back to the place from whence it came, which is the ground.
Composted.
Who likes kiwi?
Kiwi works. For me, if it would have been a Filipino mango, I would have ate that mango. That is a good my. You haven't ate till you've ate a Filipino mango or a Filipino banana.
Oh, bananas are good.
Yeah, over there, they're amazing.
All of them in the tropics.
Anyway, so Adam and Eve, Abraham and Sarah, God had to test them. They failed that test. And that was a costly test. Let's think about this. Abraham and Sarah, you know, God tells them you're going to have a child in your old age. Neither of them really believe it because Sarah gets impatient, tells Abraham to go sleep with Hagar, and Abraham was also faithless and goes and sleeps with Hagar. And then what did we get as a result of that? Thousands of years of conflict that last to this day because 2 people failed the test. And that really makes you think. Not only what ancestor maybe I'm still suffering the consequences of their test, but what test have I failed that my children and grandchildren will suffer from? You know, we want to blame everybody else, but we're just like everybody else, so we're to blame too. What goes around comes around. Moses failed. I think this story is something I like to preach to the youth occasionally, and even upstairs I've preached a couple of times. Moses had an anger problem that he never resolved, and it sunk him. It did. Because remember, he killed the slave driver who was picking on Hebrew, and then 40 years later, he strikes a rock instead of speaking to it, and he's not allowed to go into the promised land. Moses had an anger problem that he never resolved, and it cost him everything but eternity. I mean, you see what Moses went through? I mean, if anybody had an excuse to strike a rock that day, he did. You know, his brother died. His sister is dying. The children of Israel are complaining. There's no water. He's been serving these people selflessly for 40 years. He lets anger get the best of him, and it cost him going into the promised land. So Moses had he did not deal with his anger well, and it cost him dearly. And I've met good, faithful Christians where anger cost them their families, leadership, you name it. I mean, unresolved anger can ruin good people and the good work they've done. David, of course, he had many tests he failed. Jonah probably is the best example ever. God's like, go this way, and he goes exactly the opposite way from the very beginning. So that's a classic. Peter had tests he failed. Paul had tests he failed. People are like, well, what test did Paul fail? Well, other than being a persecutor of the church, of course, you remember in Acts 15 when him and Barnabas couldn't agree on who to take with them on the missionary journey. And they split ways. It was kind of the first little mini church split. They didn't divide their fellowship between the two of them, but they couldn't agree on who to serve with. And it turns out that Silas was good and John Mark was good, but Paul didn't have faith in John Mark because John Mark had failed in the past. But it turned out that John Mark was now ready, and he wasn't ready in the past. And so Paul was not willing to give somebody a second chance when he himself was like the second chance guy. So that's quite a failure of a test there. And Paul later on admitted that John Mark was useful to him. That was some humble pie he ate later in life. All right, friends. Well, And then, right at the very bottom there, some people never learn from their test. Do you ever have that? Like you just pray to God that's not one of your own kids? Because Balaam didn't learn, and he was tested to the end. King Saul never learned. Judas never learned. So the question is, who will we be? Will we be the person that learns from wisdom? Will we be people that learn the hard way? Or will we be people who don't learn at all?
We need to be prepared.
Yeah. Yeah.
Judas. Taking the silver and betraying Jesus, he just couldn't handle it.
I should do a character study and teach on Judas sometime because he's a complex character. You're right about the greed, but I think he thought he knew better than Jesus, almost a satanic figure, and tried to twist things in the way he thought it should go. And then when it didn't go his way, he either didn't want to acknowledge that repentance was possible, or he really thought ending his life would be the end of it. So that's a whole other ballgame we could get into sometime, but interesting thoughts. All right. Well, yes, Candy?
Before everybody disperses, Rory and I put the fundraiser for the youth activities back up in.
Greeting cards. Cards. Yeah, very nice cards. I save all the cards that I get sent by not only these two, but Janet. And is there somebody else who makes cards in the church regularly?
And it's hard to throw them away.
Yeah, they're so nice. I keep them all. I've got a pile. So, yeah, they're really cool. All right, so very good. Well, Mickey, would you close us out in prayer?
Thank you, Father, for giving us the opportunity to learn today and help us to use what we've learned today in our own lives to realize any actions that got consequences, and we need to think about this. And we ask that you be with Josh as he gives the sermon this morning. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you all. So he doesn't speak during class.
Did you put the starting part?
No, I was, so this week, sorry.
A lot.
We're going to